Good morning, councillors, CEO, directors, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever we come together as a community, and particularly as a council, it's important for us to recognise there's been a human footprint in our valley for the last 60,000 years. For us, such representation is delivered by the Yuwi people. So as a council and as a community, we pay our respects to the traditional custodians and honour their elders past, present and those emerging. So this council meeting is being streamed live in accordance with our standing orders, and I draw the public gallery's attention to our meeting notice at the top right-hand corner of your screen. Welcome to our online audience as well, and to the members of the public attending today. By attending this meeting, you are giving your concession to your image and your voice, if you speak, being recorded and published in accordance with the council's standing orders. We're also required to tell you that you may be subject to legal action if your actions or comments are deemed inappropriate or unacceptable. So thank you very much for your attendance. I declare the meeting open and welcome Pastor Joy to open our meeting with prayer.
Thanks, Mayor Williamson and councillors, staff. Just want to express how thankful we are as church leaders in the town for the role that you all fulfil here, and I did want to pray and ask God for wisdom for you to carry out those roles this morning. Great thing about wisdom is God promises to give it to all who ask him in faith. And just to give a little bit of context for my prayer, I'll just read a short section of scripture, James 3:13. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbour bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, and then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness. Let's pray. Loving Father, we do just thank you that we come to you, the giver of all wisdom, this morning. We thank you for this region that you have placed us in and all your good gifts to us in your Lord Jesus Christ, your Son. And Father, we just come asking your forgiveness this morning, Lord, for those places where we have acted in envy and selfish ambition. Lord, where we have acted in ways that have put others down for the sake of our own benefit. We confess that to you this morning and we ask your forgiveness. We receive that from Jesus by his shed blood on the cross. And we do speak to any spirits of competition or division or jealousy or envy this morning. And we command you out of our lives. We command you out of the council chambers. We command you out of this region in Jesus' name. And Heavenly Father, we just ask this morning that you would pour out upon us this heavenly wisdom that you promise. Give us purity, peace-loving hearts and consideration of others. Help us to be submissive and full of mercy. Pour that out upon us, we pray, in Jesus' name, that we might be those who go walking as peacemakers and so reaping peace and a harvest of righteousness. We receive it by faith in Jesus' name this morning. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Pastor Joy. Thank you for being here. Nobody absent on council business. There's no apologies. There's a leave of absence requested of the Council of Bonaventura for the meeting of the 26th of July. Somebody like to move? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. In condolences today, councillors, if you'll leave, we'll offer our condolences to the family and friends of John Pearce, who's just recently sadly passed away. John worked for council for 52 years and 10 months. And that was from the 1st of July 1970 to May the 3rd, 2023. He started his career with the Pioneer Shire Council in July 1970. He did his cadetship before that with Main Roads, and then went on to become a technical officer working in construction and maintenance with us. John actually developed and then maintained our first quality management system. He's received over the years plenty of accolades, and our regional council has received over the years plenty of accolades, recognising that management system as one of the top 5 in Queensland. He was a pioneer and instigator of quality management within our council. As a person. John was a very humble and private man. He was happy just to turn up and do his job to the very best of his ability every day of his working life. He was married to Josephine for 42 years, and sadly Josephine passed away just a few weeks prior to John's passing. So on your behalf and on the whole council's behalf, we offer our condolences to the family and friends of John Pearce. Are there any other condolences? No other condolences? Conflicts of interest. We've got a few. The conflicts of interest at item 11.1.7, Councillor Bella, myself, Councillor Bonaventura, Councillor Justin Inglet, Councillor Hassan, Councillor Alison Jones, Councillor Fran Mann, Councillor Russell Seymour, Councillor Pauline Townsend have a declarable conflict of interest. I've also declared a declarable conflict of interest for items 13.1 and 13.2, and Councillor Mann has declared conflict of interest at item 17.4. Are there any more? Okay, very good. Let's move on then to the confirmation of minutes. 7.1 minutes of the meeting of the 26th of April 2023 are in your agenda. Would somebody like to move that the minutes be received? Councillor Bonaventura moves. Councillor Jones seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. The business arising out of the minutes is included on just two items, included on page 61 of your agenda. No mayoral minutes this morning. Consideration of committee reports and recommendations for draft minutes of the Heritage Reference Group, and that meeting was held on the 8th of May. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I could just make a comment there that I would like to note it in the record that I had since declared a conflict of interest within not at that meeting, but at the council briefing. I was unaware that a property that I own was subject to the local heritage register. Okay. So just for noting in the minutes that I have publicly declared that interest.
Okay, thank you. I think that's fine. Are there any other questions? Councillor Mann, you move. Seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Bishop. So the officers is currently doing a lot of work on the local heritage register in terms of research, and they did a presentation for us. Research is being done in collaboration with the Department of Environment and Science, and there will be significant public consultation next year as to next steps. We also considered an application to have a commemorative street blade installed at Morley Street, and the committee did feel that the research warranted a recommendation to council that that street blade be approved. The installation of the street blade will be subject to approval by council, budget availability, because we found out that it costs between $400 and $1,000 per blade. And there was also discussion about the current street blade may not necessarily reflect what we want to see now, because it talks about Mackay's 150 years celebrations. So I think there's a bit of research being done as to whether or not we update that as well. I actually gave a presentation in my attendance at the Heritage Conference in Maryborough, and for me what was really highlighted was the commitment of Fraser Coast Council to preserving heritage buildings, to protecting and conserving cultural heritage, their adaptive reuse of a building which they've bought, and the economic benefit to their council from heritage tourism. And finally we talked about Brisbane Open House Weekend scheduled for 15th and 16th of July, in case any of the members of the group were interested in attending. So there is a recommendation from the Heritage Reference Group, and that is that council accept the recommendations of the group regarding the approval of the installation of a commemorative street blade at Morley Street, subject to budget availability and subject to a revised design of the blade.
And the endorsement of these minutes will actually approve that recommendation. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.2, the Audit Committee meeting of the 11th of May. That's the minutes are included. Any questions? No questions. Somebody like to move? Councillor Bella moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Councillor Bella.
As we had quite strongly reinforced to us on Monday at the training session regarding financial management, the Audit Committee plays a vital role in Council. What was pleasing once again is that internal audits came up, all I can say is relatively positively. There was a very interesting presentation at the end regarding the repair to the sewer main on Paradise Street. it was interesting to hear how our staff had planned it, implemented the plan, found that, as per usual, there was always something goes wrong, and were able to cope with that and get the job done quite well. What is also pleasing to me is that the procedures we went through in the repair of that sewer main have been provided to a couple of other councils. In actual fact, one relatively major council asked us for advice on how to go about it. So one, audit committee I think is doing a great job, and two, I'd like to commend everyone that was involved in the Paradise Street project.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bello. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. First of our new reporting for the Office of the Mayor and CEO. First of all is my monthly report. We're probably going to change the context of this, because looking back to April now, at the 24th of May, is probably a little bit far back. So from now on, it'll be the weeks, the report on will be the weeks between the council meetings. But anyway, the ones I would just like to highlight, Energy Queensland, they had a board meeting and executive meeting here in Mackay, and they're after all electrical customers, that's everybody, invited to complete a survey designed to inform them on their future tariff charges and their future distributions, etc. And that survey, you can find that in a soft copy online or at Queensland's Energy Future, if you just Google that. So I think that's very important for us as a region to actually make comment on. It's great to see the Young Mayors program underway as well. And in the key meetings, the Queensland Resources Industry Development Plan was highlighted with a meeting of a lot of directors generals and the minister himself, and 4 mayors and the Resource Council. It was interesting that there's a $5 million investment to determine the extent of valuable minerals for the future, which was of great interest to Stage 2 of the Resources Centre of Excellence, and then a whole of government approach to the critical mineral strategy from the Queensland Government. Are there questions? No questions? Councillor Butler?
I know there was a meeting with the Queensland Health team.
Yes.
And for a long time, although I'm no longer a registered practitioner, aged care and general health issues, as mentioned here, have remained something that's dear to my heart, akin to homeless accommodation. What I would ask in relation to this discussion, if we can get some meat on the bones of that as to what was discussed and the outcomes, because I don't think there's anyone that has any doubt that there are some serious concerns in this area with the provision of healthcare. I'm wondering if you could flesh that out.
Well, we can certainly do that. It was an information sharing exercise that they came. They were doing it around all the stakeholders in Mackay, but we'll certainly. They didn't leave anything behind. It was just, but we'll certainly get it from them. It's a good idea. Further questions? I'd like to move the acceptance of the report, seconded by Councillor May. Those in favour? Any against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. CEO's monthly report for April. CEO.
Thanks, Mayor. As the Mayor highlighted, this is not only our first monthly meeting from our previous meeting that decided the way forward, but also the first opportunity we've got for our new format of reports, and that being not only the Mayor's report, but also the CEO's monthly report. Hopefully providing a strategic look at what the Council has been up to and where we plan on heading to. And I did just want to call out 2 in particular things, and that was, as the Mayor said, although we're sort of catching up on the lag, I did just want to still highlight the effort and work that went into Anzac Day preparations for the end of last month, and just pass my congratulations and thanks to all the staff involved. A lot of work and passion and dedication, and of course from the elected representatives for attending over 25 ceremonies throughout the region. And then lastly, also just highlight the organisation's commitment to proactive safety. So during that period of time, I had the pleasure, along with members of ELT, to attend a workshop with those of our staff members who volunteer to be workplace health safety representatives throughout the organisation, where there was a strong focus, as within the elected body, around being proactive in safety to ensure that we remain at the forefront of a safety culture for the organisation and continue on in a safe way for all of our staff. So other than that, I'll leave the report for the Chamber.
Thank you very much, CEO. Questions? No questions? Very good. Somebody like to, and congratulations. It's a good report. Somebody like to move the report's adoption. Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and yes, congratulations to the CEO on the new format of the report. It's, I think as we move forward, it's fairly comprehensive, gives us as councillors the information that we need to know in regards to the operations of the council. Just a couple of things from the report that I'd like to draw out is the workforce profile. And we see our numbers there of a total of 130 vacancies across all areas of council. Previous month there was 129, so we're not quite heading in the right direction. Our 12-month rolling average of 19.22% is probably slightly high, but I do know that the officers are working on those strategies to bring that down. And then if we look at the monthly recruitment, a huge effort there with this month, 172 vacant positions. 24 of those positions were advertised, resulting in 322 applicants with 27 positions filled. So that in itself, the workload that is needed to sift through all of those applications should not go unnoticed. I did just want to move then to the Mackay City and waterfront projects, and the waterfront projects are coming along nicely. We're activating space down there in the city as well, but I just really wanted to call out the Main Street Australia Awards, where we have been named as a finalist in 4 categories. So the Main Street Place Activation, the Best Traditional Digital Marketing, the Best Regional Main Street or Town Centre, and the Most Sustainable Main Street or Town Centre. So I think that's credit to the team to actually be finalists within those categories for the work that they've been doing. And just in the development area, the applications received by development and planning are huge, like the number is quite high. But I wanted to draw attention to the construction phase of the operational works, where we see 132 applications in process, with 3 completed, and the operational works of 21 in progress and 2 completed. So that gives you a bit of a snapshot as to what's happening in the development space. And I suppose the encouraging part about that is that the operational works is actually on ground. It's not development applications being approved, it's people wanting to put shovels in the ground, and that's great.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Jones speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. I also wanted to give my thanks to the CEO and the staff on the New Look report. It is very, very easy to read. I only picked one item out of the report that is on the lips of most of our community, and it's around mowing. I note on page 88, part work schedules are under review for better efficiencies, and I know that our general community at some point will very much appreciate the resolution to this topic. So that was it, Your Worship.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jones. Any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Let's point 1.3, the adoption of council policies. Councillors, today there's 4 policies. Policy 13, the tree and or vegetation vandalism. 52, the drinking water quality. 46, information privacy. And 65, community leasing. Are there questions about any of these policies? No questions? Councillor Bella, you have a question? No. Okay. Would somebody like to move the adoption of those policies? Councillor Bonaventura moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Bonaventura.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, just quickly, the 4 policies. Policy 13, tree and vegetation vandalism, has been developed in response to instances of vandalism of trees and vegetation on council managed land. The drinking water quality policy is to provide strategic preventative approach to drinking water management. Our information policy, CUO 046, is to manage personal information as required by the Information and Privacy Act 2009, and COU 065, community leasing. And this is to ensure that there is equitable and consistent approach in providing tenure to our community organisations. And look, all these policies have been reviewed as part of MRC's policy review program, and I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Bella, speaking for.
I'd just like to make mention in this of the drinking water policy. This is the policy that underpins our performance in the field. I think that without doubt over the last 7 years I've seen marked improvements in our provision of drinking water, well, to be honest, water generally, because the water you hose on your lawn is actually of equal quality to the water that you put in your mouth. We won numerous awards, and as I said, the way we go about things is guided by policies such as this. What I did neglect to mention the previous time I spoke was that in the Audit Committee we spoke about, and we regularly have something regarding cyber security. It's good to see that in this policy we handle not only we handle people's data, and the other thing we have is a time frame for handling complaints. Storing and handling of data is of great concern to everyone, myself included. Complaints, this time frame gives people that do put in complaints, both internally and externally, an idea of how long it should take us to reply to them. So it gives a benchmark, and obviously when you do put in a complaint or a request, you know, there's other people that have put in that request, so a little bit of time, it's basically like queuing, a little bit of time and give the staff a break and they'll get there. But overall, I'm very happy with the performance of our water team, but in particular this policy in itself, as I said, underpins everything they do.
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Any other speakers? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.1.4, councillor attendance or councillors' attendance at the Queensland Disaster Management Conference for Councillor May and Councillor England. Questions? Very well straightforward. Somebody like to move? Councillor Jones moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Worship. I think it's fairly straightforward. Look forward to the report from the councillors at the end of the conference.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Any other speakers? Speaking for, Councillor May.
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. Look, attendance at this conference I think is paramount. As we know, the changes are happening within the disaster management space, where we're moving from Queensland Fire and Rescue over to Queensland Police Service, and you'll see in the agenda here there is a fair focus on what that, information being provided around that. I think for me the other couple of important parts are really around the bushfire resilient communities, the local government showcases about libraries as a place of refuge, and the work that's being done in the homelessness space about inclusive disaster management. So they're just a couple of things that are on the agenda, but I think for a council as a whole and our local disaster management group, there's only good information to be gained by attending.
Yeah. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Mackay show holiday. Under the Act, we've got to actually endorse the show holiday, so this motion is that the council endorses a special holiday be requested for Thursday the 20th of June for hosting of the annual Mackay show. Are there questions, Councillor Mann?
Just notice the date's wrong. It says 2024 instead of 2025.
Yes, right. It does too. We're ahead of ourselves by 1 year. We'll make that, can somebody just confirm that Thursday that?
It is the
2024. So we were, that's right, the show's already approved. So this is for 2024, right, okay. We're doing it for 2024. Any other questions? I'll put that motion. Those in, somebody better move it. Councillor Bonaventura moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Councillor Bonaventura.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, the date is for Thursday, the 20th of June 2024. But look, contact has been made with the Mackay Show Association, who advise the date fits into the Queensland show dates, and with the Mackay Show being planned between the 18th and the 20th of June 2024. And the date also aligns with the Pioneer Valley Show, which is scheduled on the 16th of June 24. So all in order.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bonaventura. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. 11.1.6, the amendment of the council meeting dates for the June ordinary and special budget meetings for 2023. And this is to propose the change of the date for the June meetings and also to confirm the 2023 special budget meeting. I mean, that's fairly well self-explanatory. We're required, if we're going to change the date, and there's an opportunity here to actually have the State Treasurer in town on this day. And it'll be, he's indicated so far that he's doing a public presentation and he'll probably come to our budget meeting as well, if we can do that on this day. So are there any other questions? We're within the required time frame. So the officer's recommendation is outlined there on page 173. If there's no questions, would somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Green moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor Green? Okay, I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Okay, 11.1.7 is the referral from the Office of the Independent Assessor. Councillor Bella, this is you probably exercise your exit at this stage. Now, councillors, under the Act, because we've got so many conflicts here, we won't have a quorum. So the Act is quite specific that Section 150 EU4 of the Local Government Act is noted that councillors who had a declared conflict are able to make a resolution to delegate the decision of the matter without contravening their conflicts provisions. And so further to that, the section of the Act, given that this is a matter related to councillors' conduct and that the Mayor has declared, thus I have declared a conflict, that the council can delegate the decision on the matter per the legislative options to the Deputy Mayor as Acting Mayor. But to do that, we need a motion. And so the motion's up there. That's that motion that I've just read there. And it basically, by adopting that, we're saying we don't have a quorum. We delegate the Mayor's position to the Deputy Mayor, who becomes Acting Mayor, to fulfil this particular agenda item. Any questions? Would somebody like to move? Councillor Justin England moves. Councillor Bonaventura seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Deputy Mayor, you're now the Acting Mayor. I'll hand over to you, and we will be required, I take it that you're requiring us to exit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, Mr. CEO, in regards to 11.17, the referral from the Office of the Independent Assessor, is there any comments that you would like to make in regards to this matter before I make a decision?
No comments, Deputy Mayor, just over to your decision.
Okay, thank you. So, noting the outcome of the report from the Councillor Conduct Tribunal, that is, evidence is sufficient for the Council to reach a determination that the allegations of inappropriate conduct is sustained on the balance of probabilities. Having been delegated to make a decision on this matter, my decision is that per the Tribunal report that there is sufficient evidence that Councillor Bella has engaged in inappropriate conduct as per Section 150 AG 1A of the Local Government Act 2009 in relation to the allegation that Councillor Bella has breached the behavioural standards in the Code of Conduct for Councillors in Queensland. Further, that having made this decision, determined that the disciplinary action applicable per the legislative options is that, number one, Councillor Bella makes a public admission per Section 150 AG 1B1 of the Local Government Act, however, accepting that the written statement provided by Councillor Bella and tabled at this meeting fulfils this acknowledgement. Number two, that Councillor Bella attends applicable social media training to address the councillor's conduct and the content of which to be confirmed. The Chief Executive Officer is to write to Councillor Bella and the Office of the Independent Assessor advising of Council's decision. The Chief Executive Officer is also asked to update the Councillor Conduct Register with the decision in accordance with Section 15DX of the Local Government Act.
Noted, Chair, and also in relation to Section 2, with regards to the content of which to be confirmed, I will be instructing all councillors, inclusive of Mayor and Deputy Mayor, to undergo both councillor interaction and social media training, which will fulfil that obligation.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. There's no other business in this matter. we will move on and get the rest of the council back. Thank you. So, Mr Mayor, as per the authority delegated to me to make that decision, the decision that I made is on the board there for all councillors to note, and that matter has been dealt with.
Thank you very much.
In addition, what's not tabled
sorry.
is, Chair, in addition, in relation to option 2, we talk about the content of which to be confirmed, and I just addressed the chamber to advise that all councillors, inclusive of deputy mayor and mayor, will undergo both interaction and social media training, which will fulfil that obligation.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Suzanne.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. All right. Let's move on. Development services at 11.2. And 11.2.1 is the material change of use for a service station at 214 and 216 Nebo Road and 2 Lagoon Street. The officer's recommendation is for refusal for this one. We had one speaker registered. Is Mr Muscat here?
Yep.
Mr Muscat, would you like to, you have 3 minutes, sir, and thank you very much for registering. And the 3 minutes is not an interactive opportunity for council, but we're here to listen to you for the next 3 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you. Mayor Greg Williamson, Mackay City Councillors. My name is Jerry Muscat. I live at 17 Paul Hopkins Street, West Mackay. I'm here today representing West Mackay residents, some of, to object to the service station application before you. I'm not here to say no to service stations. In general, we all own cars, we all need fuel, hence we need service stations. I'm here objecting to the location the developer has chosen, and that being on the corner of Nebo Road and Lagoon Street. I believe not enough consideration has been given to community safety, and that's risk to footpath users, mobility scooters, wheelchairs, runners, joggers, walkers, skateboarders, e-cyclists, e-scooters. I read an article not so long ago that you can spend approximately $30 on an e-scooter to take the average speed from 28 to 50 kilometres an hour. And then in the fine print it says man with unhelmeted child to go at the speed on footpath. Pedal cyclists, mums with prams with babies in, residents walking their furballs, and most important, our school children. Must be noted that CMC is the newest school to Mackay, and it's growing at a class per year, and that will continue for the next 4 years. The biggest problem we've got is we've got traffic entering these sites from a 60 km/h road without a de-acceleration lane, and there's no room to put a de-acceleration lane in. I object to the effects that it's going to have on the lifestyle for the beautiful suburb of West Mackay. I also reject their application or the request to change to have an MCU from medium residential to allow for something that's so commercial and environmentally unfriendly. I would object to the extra noise that it would create, to the extra air pollution it would create, and to report, for the application to report there's a need, as we're all local, we understand that we currently have 2 sites on the same line of traffic that are reduced in hours, and they say to the public that's due to lack of employment opportunities, but when you really get to talk to them, the demand's not quite there anymore. And hence, being involved in the industry many years ago, I can assure you if the demand was there, they would find staff.
Thanks, Mr. Muscat. That's 3 minutes. Thank you very much. We got your message loud and clear. Thanks very much. All right, so this report's fairly well self-explanatory, councillors. You can see within the report structure itself and the officer's recommendation doesn't comply with the zone. It's unable to achieve the development outcomes through the development conditions as been requested, and it's non-compliance with the policy direction as well. Director, is there anything further you want to add?
Thank you, Worship. I don't think so. I think you've covered it. I mean, generally, the proposal doesn't comply with the planning scheme, and there is no basis to justify its approval, notwithstanding the non-compliance. There were a substantial number of submissions received against this application, and that is a relevant factor as well to take into account in assessing the application.
Other questions? Questions? Would somebody like to move then the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bella moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Bella.
While it's everyone's right to apply for a change of use with regard to a planning scheme, as I said, the applicants had that right. It is up to us to make the decision. And I think really this for me was a simple decision. If you look at basically that region, the aesthetics of the whole region, to me it's a shame that that road is as busy as it is already. We've got the gardens on the other side, we've got a quiet residential area, many of whom, and no criticism of the people behind me, many of whom are getting on in years. A service station, increased activity the service station would bring, I don't doubt at all would impact lifestyle in a number of ways. One of the things that Mackay has, I believe, is that laid-back, semi-country feel. We've got to be careful with development in areas there. Nebo Road, to be honest, is our what would you say? It's our display piece. Keeping it relatively non-commercial and keeping our side streets virtually non-commercial, I think actually aids in keeping an image that we need to have for years to come.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bella. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship. The community at times suffers some substantial anxiety around issues like this. Council is obligated to accept any application that is put before us, and people sometimes think, well, why is council considering this at all? It obviously doesn't meet the expectations of the community. We look at it because we must, under state government legislation, we must accept the application. On this occasion, council has taken into account its own planning scheme and the wishes of the community, and I'd just like to say that on this occasion the community suffered some anxiety they didn't have to, and we will have these sorts of issues in the future, and on this occasion the council is making the right decision in rejecting the application.
Thanks very much, Councillor Ingham. Are there any other speakers? No other speakers then. The motion is that this be refused for the outlined items in the officer's recommendation. Those in favour? Any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.2.2, facilitating development in the Mackay region policy. This is for extensions to approval for Antelope Lakes and the Mackay Adventure Lodge and Apartments lots 504 on the Michigan Way at Andergrove. Director, is there anything further that you need to add to this?
Yes, thank you, Worship. Just to say that the development itself is all but completed. It just didn't quite meet the deadline under the existing approval under the facilitating development policy, and that's why this request for an additional 1-year extension has been granted. But we've got no concerns that it will be finished well in advance of that extension date.
Are there questions? No questions? 100% concession applied to the net charge. And 25% applied to the net charge of the annual adjustments and the material change of use fee.
I will ask a question.
Yes, Councillor
In
Barnes.
relation to the extension, would this be the final extension? Is there a possibility, should they not meet that date, there could be another extension?
It's just the facility's just about done. Yeah.
I'm just asking the question, Your Worship.
Okay.
Thank you, Worship. Under the policy, they're entitled to apply for a 12-month extension. So the policy does allow for allow for an application for the single extension. It doesn't anticipate any other extensions. But as the Mayor just said, it is basically finished. There were just a couple of final things that didn't quite get finished before the deadline of the original approval.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Simply like to move the report's adoption. Councillor, sorry, did you have a question, Councillor Green?
No, I was moved.
Okay, you move it. Councillor Green moves. Councillor May seconds. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Your Worship.
The Mackay Adventure Lodge and Adventure Apartments is an integrated tourism and residential development, and as we've heard, they are requesting an extension to the current approval under the Facilitating Development in the Mackay Region policy. In accordance with the policy, Council can consider applications for an extension of up to 12 months, as they've asked for here, and where the applicant can demonstrate that it will be completed in that timeframe, as we've had those assurances here today, and also that the request for the extension is made before the lapse of the current approved incentives, which again they have done. So the applicant has provided the following justification for delays resulting in the request for an extension, which is local contractors experiencing a shortage of workers and delays in the supply of building materials, which we know is not just exclusive to this development. It's nearing completion. The investment to date has exceeded $6 million, which is a great investment in our community. Not only is it a great tourism investment, it also is a great investment into housing diversity and affordability. So I think absolutely follow the officer's recommendation to approve the extension.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bella speaking for.
As I've mentioned many times, I've been critical of the Facilitating Development policy, although this sort of thing is somewhere that is something that I think is beneficial in not so much the tourist side of things, but the residential. We desperately need that in this town. Extensions are something I'm extremely critical of. However, we do understand that there are problems with sourcing both material and workers. I believe that when that problem ceases to exist, our consideration of extensions has got to become far more critical. It is a bit of a circular argument in that a shortage of workers is partially due to a shortage of accommodation for those workers. So when you drill into it, not in this case, but generally, granting extensions, letting people push things out longer than they need to doesn't benefit anyone, themselves included. So we need to keep pressure on developers to get these sort of things done as soon as possible. But as I said, in this case, I think it's well warranted.
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Any other speakers? Councillor May speaking for.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to add my support to the extension of this. I think the value that our region's going to see from this development, particularly in the tourism space, in building that tourism product across our region is vitally important. As we know, with our mountain bike track being under construction now, this sort of tourism accommodation and tourism venture only supports the growth in our region. So as well as, of course, the extra unit development that comes with it. So more than happy to support.
Thanks very much, Councillor May. Councillor England speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship. Look, this is, you know, people are usually critical of development, people associated with developers. This is a young business couple willing to make a $6 million bet on our region. That supports us in this region and what we're trying to do, and we should be supporting them and what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Councillor England. Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.2.3 is a request for council ownership of the fish habitat structures. Now, this is a fairly well-written report. The officer's recommendation is that we do not accept ownership of the habitat reef modules proposed for deployment by reef catchments. I note that Councillor Hassan has an alternative motion, but we'll have to test the officer's recommendation first of all. So is there anything further, Director or CEO?
Just one piece of information that's regarding costings. So currently what's not included in the report is an estimated annual depreciation cost of $6,533 to cancel. There's currently no annual cost associated with the maintenance. However, if we did have a 1% AEP, the annual exceedance probability, we would then incur a cost of approximately $5,300 to inspect those modules. Whilst it's unlikely that they'd move during an event, if it did, we would have to move them back or replace them, whatever was required. If commitments from reef catchments and NQPB are not met, we then incur an annual cost of approximately $5,300 per year from the second year of ownership to the fifth year of ownership. We'd then incur further costs at years 10 and 15 for the same. If at any point during that ownership, if there's marine debris caught on the structures observed, we would have to pay to have that removed.
Is there questions?
So questions? Councillor May?
Just in regards to the depreciation you said, I thought they were going to sit on reef catchment's balance sheet, not ours.
They'd essentially be treated as donated assets that would be taken ownership of. So therefore we'd be required to depreciate them as assets.
Okay.
Councillor England?
Worship, the way I read the report is that the main reason that the officers are recommending not to do this is we have a concern that our partners of bulk ports and reef catchments may not meet their obligations.
Yes, that's a correct reading of it, I would say, but we have to trust that they will.
But we're not on this occasion.
CEO, Director?
I wouldn't put it quite in those terms. What I would say is that,
That's how I read it. That's how I read it, Your Worship.
no, that's not how it's intended to be read.
But that's how I read it.
The reason for the recommendation is that the commitments made, and I know it was a short time frame for securing those commitments, but they were not in certain enough terms to alter the officer recommendation. So I've no doubt about the genuineness in which they were made and the genuine intent of the partners, but they were not very firm commitments.
So our two partners of which we've been dealing with for several decades, have shown good intent. Is that correct?
Well, we believe they have, yes. Well, you might not have read that way. Councillor Bonaventura?
Just further to the Director's comment, so are you saying that we received no legal documents to indicate that they were going to take on that responsibility? As in,
Director?
Legally binding documents. We have letters, but what have we got in legally binding?
Thank you, Worship. I have attached to the report. Attached to the report is what was provided the letter. We don't have anything in addition at this stage.
Well, we've had a presentation from reef catchments. We've had a fair amount of time to debate. Are there any other questions around the officer's recommendation at this stage and the reasons why? The CEO's updated us on what could happen in terms of annual costings. Any other questions? Would somebody like to move the officer's recommendation? Councillor Bella moves, seconded by? That's lapsed for want of a seconder. Nobody seconded? Okay. So that motion has lapsed, and we'll move on then to the motion, alternative motion by Councillor Hassan. So Councillor Hassan's alternative motion is up there on the screen right now. I think you can read that. You probably all had that distributed to you last night as an alternative motion. Is there anything further you want to add to that, Councillor Hassan? You don't need to stand at this stage.
No, I think most of the information is there. As Councillor Englert mentioned, both of these are long-term partners of council, both long-standing local organisations. There's no reason to believe that. And being on the board of reef catchments with both of these organisations, the commitment is a firm one, and I believe that it's very sound. They've done as much as they possibly can to mitigate the risk to council. With reducing the period of long-term monitoring, they've negotiated that with the government. Reef catchments are willing to put a line item in their ongoing financial statements to ensure that that monitoring is ongoing, and ports are taking on that risk as well. So.
All right. Do you want to move the motion then? Are there any questions around this motion first of all? Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Jones. Councillor Hassan can speak to it if you want.
So as I said, with reef catchments applied for this project, they came and did briefings to council, and we basically, reef catchments took on the project on the proviso that we had a basic understanding with council under the MOU that council would take ownership of those. Obviously there was some mitigating circumstances that came up under the sea dumping permit, which we have addressed to the best of our ability in conjunction with bulk ports and reef catchments. Bulk ports are keen to take on the ongoing monitoring of those in partnership with council and reef catchments as well. So as I said, we've mitigated the risk as much as possible to council. The cost to council over the long term should be minimal. I do take on the CEO's information about the asset management and the depreciation cost to council. I think in relation to all of our other fish habitat structures, it is minimal, and I'm recommending that we take on the ownership.
Thanks. Councillor Hassan, speaker against. Councillor Bella, speaking against.
I'm basing my opposition on the fact that I believe that, I don't think these are a bad thing, but I think council's got to be wary of saddling itself up for these things that I believe are not our core business. This is a state and federal government responsibility. The problem I see is that, having dealt with government departments in both health and agriculture, they can change from one day to the next, and the requirements change from one day to the next. Once we've taken ownership on this, we are the owners, despite what bulk ports or reef catchments saying they're going to do this and that. If all of a sudden the state government says that we need to comply with something, we need to comply. As I said, I don't think we should be, even though it's a small amount, I don't believe we should be entering into something that really, and something very dear to my heart, has been denied on this basis, that it's not our core business. So they're the bases of my opposition to this motion.
Thanks. Councillor Bella, speaker for. Councillor Jones, speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship. Your Worship, we've received a lot of information so that we can make an informed decision today. Council undertakes some level of risk with projects every day so that Council will move forward to grow our region. Part of the growth includes our community expectation of being the fishing capital of Queensland. The report before us provides linkages in our corporate plan under Community and Environment, Live and Visit. We also have a wreck fishing strategy that's working towards the expectation of Mackay as a fishing destination. This alternate motion that Councillor Hassan has put before us allows another addition to the much-needing fishing infrastructure in the region. We have these structures in the river already, and I cannot fathom why we would not continue on this journey when it meets our corporate plan and our wreck fishing strategy. For me, it's no-brainer. This is not a hard decision to make, while in line with our corporate plan and on behalf of many of the wreck fishers of the region, noting that we do have the largest boat registrations in Queensland, and I ask my colleagues around the table to approve this motion. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Jones. Speaker against. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Englert, speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I take Councillor Bella's point. Local government's consistently let down by state and federal governments all the damn time. And it may not be our core business, but Council's endeavoured to go some way to ensuring that fishing remains on of high focus to this council. Why is that? The visitation, the expectation of the community that the council is doing things that bring more people to region to spend money. Even though the fishing strategy may have lapsed while this council sits in these seats, I know that there'll be a consistent focus on fishing in the region. We already have a significant number of assets like this, and this is in addition to that. We are one of, besides just in the Mackay region and a little bit of Whitsunday, the only place you can catch a barramundi in the whole planet 365 days of the year. So fishing should be a concern for us. We could be the centre of the universe for fishing, not only Queensland, but the rest of the country. And I say that we do everything we can to ensure more fisher people come and visit us and spend their money while they're here.
Thanks, Councillor Englert. Well said. Are there any other speakers? No other speakers? Do you wish to exercise a right of reply, Councillor Hassan?
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for the other councillors, and I understand Councillor Bella's position. I take it on board, but as Councillor English is saying, this is not something new. Council already owns fish habitat structures, which is in a very tidal area in the Pioneer River. These are out in bulk ports, waters, further out off the coastline. They're at much lower risk of any kind of movement or damage. And the results that we've already seen from our existing fish habitat structures, I think, have far exceeded our expectations. So anything that improves our marine environment in our region to encourage more people to come here, I think is a positive outcome.
Thanks, Councillor Hassan. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Councillor Bella's recorded his vote against. The motion's carried 10-1. Let's move on. 11.3 is the engineering commercial infrastructure section. 11.3.1, a petition for sealing the Gravinos Road at Victoria Plains. So that's That report is fairly well self-explanatory, so the officer's recommendation that council notes the outcome of the investigations, advice petitioners that council considers the road formation trafficable for all residents, and that ongoing maintenance in alignment with the council's normal intervention level will continue to be undertaken, and that the principal petitioner be advised of these outcomes. Questions? Somebody like to move? Councillor Jones moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Jones?
Your Worship, I think the report, as you said, is fairly self-explanatory, and it's just one of those decisions that we have to take on board around maintenance within our region. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. So, in terms of org services, at 11.4.1, the interim management report. CEO, Director, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Worship. So the interim management report's been prepared by our external auditors in line with QAO, Queensland Audit Office requirements. While there is 3 deficiencies noted, I did also just want to highlight that the overall outcome was actually positive for us, with them noting that our internal control environment can be relied upon for the preparation of their financial reports, which is the purpose of this interim management. I'd also like to note that of the 3 deficiencies that are highlighted within the body of the report, all 3 are currently either resolved or in progress. So there's actions being taken to rectify all of those. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Director. Questions for the Director? No questions. Somebody like to move the report's adoption, please? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Green. Councillor May.
I think the director's said it all, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. The strategic financial report for April 23, Director.
Thank you, Worship. So the strategic financial report for April now incorporates all of the adjustments that were endorsed by Council as part of the March budget review process, which was adopted, showing an anticipated surplus of around $500,000. As at the end of April, we're 950,000 ahead of the anticipated position, with the top 5 drivers of this variance outlined within the body of the report. As at the end of April, the capital program is on track to achieve the revised budget spend of $104 million. Forecasts for March and April were exceeded, with current year spend at just over $80 million. Council's cash investments continue to attract a good rate of return at 4.24%. The interest rates in our cash at call are also over 4% currently. Rate arrears are also trending favourably at 4.3%, which is almost half those of other Category 5 councils. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Director. And certainly those are good figures. $500,000 surplus is tight. But
It's in the right direction.
a couple of months ago, it's absolutely in the right direction. Questions? No questions? Somebody like to somebody like to move the report's adoption, please. Councillor May, seconded by Councillor Jones.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And as the Director said, you know, it's having incorporated all of those changes from the budget review, we are still in a very strong position. I think the major area of concern is the capital delivery program, and we've noted that all the way throughout the year. So I think, and the CEO and directors are looking at how to address that going into the new budget year. But I think overall we're tracking very well as far as the strategic financial report is concerned.
Yeah. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. 11.4.3, the lease of land for Telstra Corporation, the Mackay Harbour. Fairly well straightforward. Is there anything further that, Director, you need to add to this? No? Questions? Somebody like to move? Councillor Jones moves, seconded by Councillor Green. Councillor Jones?
As the report says, Your
Okay,
Worship.
I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Uh, 11.4.4 is the requests for an expression of interest for HRIS, which is the Human Resources Information System. Is there anything further we need to add to this report? Director? No? Questions?
Just so I've got it clear in my head, we're not targeting any particular system, we're just asking for expressions of interest for a system.
Yes. Yeah. No questions? Other than that one? Okay, would somebody like to move then the officer's recommendation as listed at page 316? Councillor Jones moves and Councillor Townsend. Councillor Townsend, did you move?
Yes.
No? Councillor Jones moves, Councillor Townsend seconds, Councillor Jones.
As report states.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried, thank you. All right. No petitions and tenders. So 13.1 and 13.2 is where I'll declare an interest and hand it over now to you, Deputy Mayor, to run these two particular tenders. Thank you.
No, well, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I'll just wait till the Mayor departs the chambers. So 13.1 is the Mackay Regional Council 23031 design and construct for the Pioneer Floating Pontoon Blue Water Quay Mackay. Go to the Director of Capital Works if there's any comments in regards to the tender.
No, not at this stage.
Is there any questions in regards to the tender? Would somebody therefore like to move that the tender be accepted? Councillor Jones moves, seconded Councillor Engler. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, I think that any additional marine infrastructure that we're able to fit to our river, allowing easier access to the community for one of two blue rivers within Queensland is a plus, and I look forward to its implementation.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? Councillor Engler?
Thank you, Worship. Not to correct the councillor, she's correct. In Queensland, 3 in Australia, 6 in the world, blue rivers. We have an excellent river that only people use, fisher people that enter the river at the boat ramp. We've been talking about activating the Pioneer River for 2 decades now, and this is finally the opportunity to move forward in getting that activation done. We've had over the last years interest in tourism organisations bringing their boats, like tourism boats, to the Mackay region in the winter season when they're not being used in southeast Queensland, and we've had nowhere for them to pull up and take tourists on little journeys around the place. There's a lack of economic opportunity for the region, so this will go a long way to ensuring that there are tourism opportunities and opportunities for our residents and ratepayers to also enjoy one of only 6 blue rivers in the world.
Thank you very much, Councillor Engler. Is there any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That's carried unanimously. Let's move on then to 13.2, which is Mackay Regional Council 2023-030, design and construct building refurbishment at 8 River Street. Go to the Director for any comments first.
No, not necessarily. It is relatively self-explanatory, Your Worship. But we did have a briefing with councillors just about this process, and it's taken a little bit longer than we originally anticipated to work through the tender and its requirements, and we're comfortable now that it meets all our needs, and we'll have some activation on that waterfront, which is of course the ultimate goal.
Is there any questions for the Director? Councillor Bonaventura?
Just in relation to staging, once the design is complete, is there a staging where councillors get to see what's actually proposed in more detail to just a sketch that we currently have?
Director?
Through Your Worship. Yeah, that is possible. We certainly haven't set that up, but the next stage is, as the contract suggests, it's a design and construct. So we'll start to get detailed design from the contractor through the first months of the process. And as we go through that to make sure that design meets our PPR, our project requirements, there may be an opportunity to schedule a briefing for councillors to demonstrate that the intent meets that design.
Yeah, that would be very much appreciated if that was possible.
Noted. Any other questions for the Director? Would somebody like to move as per the officer's recommendation? Councillor England, seconded by Councillor Seymour.
I'd like to give my right to Councillor
Oh,
Seymour.
we can, if that's okay, can we swap them around? Go for Councillor Seymour as the mover and Councillor England as the seconder.
Thank you, Your Worship.
We've had briefings on this project and the concept of it, when you view under 8 River Street, the substructure of that was pretty well deteriorated, but they've come up with a new concept now, putting out piers out into the water, extending the whole platform, which to me is a blowout of the budget, but in a good way, because now the building can be utilised as a viewing deck in the front and also have the substructure that will outlast any cyclone or any flood conditions on that river. The only thing is with design and construct is basically, you know, we've had concept drawings of it, which are only artist impressions, and these impressions sometimes are misleading. So the thing I'd like is what Councillor Bonaventura just brought up is once we are close to detailed drawings of this project, I'd like to have a briefing so everyone's around the same framework as what's happening. So.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. Any other speakers? Councillor Angler?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, this is the Old Maria's Donkey site, one of the most popular places to previously dine in the region. Anyone that's had the opportunity to go up to Paxton's, and you can see it's one of the best places to eat a meal if you're allowed to do it up there. They don't at this stage. What my point is, this is part of the great activation of the Pioneer River. Once this facility is completed, it will be sitting directly over the Pioneer River, and even though it's a substantial investment by the residents and ratepayers of this region, there's no doubt that the return on that investment will be high, and I believe that the residents will be very proud of the facility that ends up there, and it'll be utilised every day of the week in the interest of the region.
Thank you very much, Councillor England. Any other speakers? If I could just add my comments to this particular item, I think it's, even though Councillor England has highlighted the investment is a bit more than what we anticipated, I think the benefits of returning this facility to a usable standard, a good standard that will come out of this design to the betterment of our waterfront development, the waterfront, projects as a whole. This is a key component of that particular undertaking as part of our PDA. So yes, I must say I'm looking forward to the briefing that we will have once the designs start to shape up. So if there's no other comments, I would like to put the motion. All those in favour? Nobody's against. That's carried. We shall get our mayor back and hand back to him. Have to get a bit of that.
Thanks very much, Deputy Mayor. Thanks, councillors. I'm going through the tenders. 14 is notified motions, and we have a consideration of a declarable conflict of interest by Councillor Seymour and a request for Council to support his continued involvement in the Pioneer Valley Mountain Bike Project in the public interest despite the identified conflict. Are there questions around this? Okay, so this is a motion brought by Councillor Seymour. Councillor Seymour, is there anything further you need to add to this?
Not really, just basic evidence in the motion I put down. This is something that when I first got into council, I had to actually put my hand up after it was handed out to go into this project. I've lived in the area all my life. I know a lot of the outlaw of the area, and it was a bit of a shock to me when I couldn't allowed to participate, but hopefully the decision today I can be more involved.
Okay, are there questions? No questions? Councillor Seymour, you move. Is there a seconder? Councillor Anglett's a seconder. Councillor Seymour, you can speak to it then.
Yeah, it's only...
you need to stand for this.
It's, the conflict's probably there. My brother's got land up there at Finch Haddon, but it would be no more benefit to him than it would be to any other ratepayers in that area. So my judgment is solely for council and not for anyone else, and hopefully with the project to resume, and I'm involved. So.
Thanks, Councillor Seymour. Speaker against? Councillor May speaking against.
Yes, Your Worship, I'm sorry, I cannot support this. I think the public perception of we're doing favours for a fellow councillor that has a conflict of interest. It's been determined that there is a conflict of interest. Whether the property is 1 kilometre from our activation space or whether it's 11 kilometres as stated in the report, I believe that the conflict is real and council should not be supporting this motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor, speaker for. Councillor Bella speaking for.
First of all, I think that council currently lacks the practical knowledge and the experience of someone such as Councillor Seymour, as well as his links to people who have lived in the area, his knowledge of the area, the topography, geography, the whole lot, for his whole life. The other thing is that the perceived conflict, in my eyes, is tenuous at best. How a mountain bike project can in any way influence, up, down or sideways, someone who is geographically distant and engaged in an industry that is totally removed from tourism and mountain biking, I struggle to see. So I will be supporting this motion.
Thanks. Councillor Bella, speaker against. The Greens speaking against.
I would like to acknowledge the experience and the lived experience and the history that Councillor Seymour does have in this area is of value to this project. But we do, in all conflicts of interest, we have to bring it back to the pub test. Let's sit in the pub at Finch Hatton. Two very well-known people of this area. One's a councillor and one is a landholder in that area. What do the people of that region think? And we have to bring it back to that every single time to uphold the integrity of this council. And in this case, I don't think it passes the pub test. And I think in response to Councillor Bella, we have consultants on board who are experienced, who do have the knowledge to implement this project. And it's not just some mountain bike project, it's an economic development catalyst. And there is money to be made if you have a conflict in this, or if you have any inside information that you could potentially pass on to anyone. So I'm sorry, but I do believe that there is a conflict that needs to be upheld in this situation for the reputation of council.
Thanks. Councillor Green, speaker for. Councillor England.
Thank you, Worship. I truly believe if we were to sit in the pub at Finch Hatton, that they would ask us what we were drinking to suggest that Councillor Seymour had an actual conflict. His brother lives in the region, also known lovingly as Mr. Lizard. He's been there his whole life. Now, councillors around this table have known about this project for 6 years, and councillors at this table have purposely avoided the purchase of land in the area in the lead up to that. You know, it would have been quite easy for councillors to go and do that. Councillors have behaved appropriately right up to the point that it was announced and funding was given. At that point, the horses bolted, Your Worship. There's no advantage to any councillor now to go and buy a piece of land at Finch Hatton or Youngler. We're in the same situation as every other resident and ratepayer in the region. Now, the horses bolted. Prior to that, there would have been a problem, and the problem was brought up. It hasn't actually been determined legally that he actually has, the Councillor Seymour has a legal conflict of interest. It's the legal jargon is, it's come back to us as a bit of a grey area. So when there's grey areas, this council has the right under legislation to make a determination at that point. Councillor Seymour could have potentially taken advantage of his knowledge of the project in the lead up to the announcement and funding. He did not. He is sat on the advisory committee. I don't care about his operational experience either. As the chair of the Mountain Bike Alliance, I specifically made the first inquiry around council making a determination on his perceived conflict, and that was advised that he should bring the matter forward to this council. And so I just finish by saying that as the chair of the committee, I'm not interested in his operational capability. I'm interested in what he has to offer as his strategic participation in that. The horse has bolted. No councillor can take advantage of anything as a result of this project anymore. We're in the same situation as every other resident and ratepayer. And if we went to the pub, they would be asking us what we're drinking.
Thanks, Councillor Englert. Are there other speakers? Councillor Belly, is to speak a second time?
I think I've got a little bit of time left. Look, I thank Councillor Englert because he covered the point that I wanted to cover. The consultants did not make any definitive judgment, and we need to remember that. And is our right, our responsibility to make a judgment in this. But to suggest that someone that is running cattle, which I have done all of my life, would benefit, and we've got a planning scheme that limits what people can do on certain types of country, but to suggest that someone that is running cattle, Mr. Lizard, as previously referred, would somehow benefit from a tourism project 11 kilometres away, I struggle. You know, if I could have, I'd have bought a property and made a fortune before I ever come into council. I run cows. There is no way a close tourism project would in any way benefit. In actual fact, I believe all it would bring was headaches.
Thanks, Councillor Bella. Are there other speakers? Councillor Jones speaking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to mention the pub test, along with Councillor Seymour, myself also declares a conflict in this matter, and I shall remain to do so because I believe that I have a true conflict in the matter, being that my brother has a commercial property in the main street of Finchatton. That is what a conflict of interest is. I don't believe that what Councillor Seymour has been presented with is a true conflict in the sense that I'm in that situation. I cannot see how this, because of his connection to his brother who lives that far away from the whole project is really going to cause some concern. But I do want to acknowledge that his knowledge is valuable to the project. So that's what I would like to say.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor May, you to speak a second time.
Yes, I think I've got a few minutes left, Your Worship. I would just like to say that it wasn't that long ago that councillors sat in this chambers and called a conflict of interest on you because your son has a property in the PDA area. I really don't see the difference between that and what Councillor Seymour's interest is in this property. So I'm thinking that this actually, if you vote this to be accepted today, that is setting a precedent for conflicts of interest that have gone before this council previously. I think as far as knowledge of the area goes, I back our staff 100%. They have done a fantastic job in researching, in walking that particular country. They have covered all of that, and I think that they've done a great job, and I back their expertise in this space. I think the conflict here is the potential development and the inside information that Councillor Seymour may transfer, not knowingly, maybe just not knowingly and not intentionally, may transfer to his brother, who knows what developments may come in the future. I think it's really important that we keep the integrity of this council solid.
Thanks, Councillor May. Are there other speakers?
I still have time left.
Have you spoken twice?
Have I spoken twice? I spoke once.
Once.
Still got time left.
You've got time. Councillor Englert speaking twice.
Look, Your Worship, you're in the same boat as Councillor Seymour, I believe. There's no definitive legal advice to you that it is black or white, and that if you wish to bring forward your matter to council, it may also settle that on your behalf. It is the same situation, I believe. As far as our staff go, staff, this is the first of its type. Then if the staff don't need advice and recommendations, why is there a mountain bike alliance that particularly and a strategy that particularly mentions the formation of alliance for the sole purpose of supporting the delivery of this project? As far as inside information goes, it's all out there, Your Worship. Apart from a tender process, if Mr. Lizard was decided to put a tender in for something, perhaps that might be perceived as a conflict. But I believe Mr. Lizard has his priorities firmly on the land. So as far as inside information, it's all public. Everybody knows what we're doing. Everybody knows the round figure. Everybody knows when we're going to do it. So I don't see the conflict, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you. Are there other speakers? Do you wish to exercise a right of reply, Councillor?
Yeah. 12 months ago, I was put up my hand to go to Tasmania on a mountain bike tour. It was okay then. I had no conflict. Now all of a sudden, it's turned around that I've got a conflict. I'm admitting probably there is a conflict. My brother does own property there. But as far as making judgment on tender processes and anything that happens in an area, I'm pretty, I'm secluded and basically nothing leaves my lips. I just keep everything to myself. It's all confidential. There's always talk about what's happening in that area, and I talk all the time to people, and they keep asking me when it's going on. Like I said, I'm in the dark now, I don't know, but I wish to maintain my part of the Mountain Bike Alliance. So, thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Seymour. The thing that changed, councillors, was, as you know, the OIA made a couple of rulings where they have said that it may be construed that there is a declarable conflict, and that's on a couple of reasons. But having talked to the CEO and the XO, my only concern was how, in a legal sense, we are protected by making this decision as a council, and we are. This is council's right to actually make a decision about whether a councillor has or has not, in our opinion, a declarable. It's different between a prescribed conflict of interest. This is a declarable conflict of interest. So we have that right to do that, and we are legally protected. So the council is doing exactly what the council can do at this stage by determining, as a council, one of our members has a declarable conflict or not. So I'll put that motion. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Green and Councillor May have recorded their motion. So against, so it's passed 9-2. Thanks very much. All right, so public participation, there's no registrations for public participation. Late business. Now, late business is a different environment, as I'm sure you know. Right. Is there anybody who wants to determine a late business agenda? No? Okay. Confidential reports. We've got several confidential reports. Is there a need to go into confidential? No need? Okay, so we'll note that Councillor Mann has declared an interest in, what was yours? 17.4? Okay. At that stage you'll step out. So let's deal with the confidential right now. The draft minutes of the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program Advisory Committee of the 17th of April. Somebody like to move? Councillor Hassan moves, Councillor May seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. 17.2, the approved concessions under the Facilitating Development of Mackay Region Policy for April of 2023. Somebody like to move? Councillor Townsend moves, Councillor Mann seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. 17.3, the approved sponsorship under the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program for April. Somebody like to move? Councillor Green moves, Councillor Englert seconds. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Councillor Mann is stepping out for the consideration of 17.4. The draft minutes of the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program Advisory Committee of the 8th of May. Somebody like to move? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Englert. Those in favour? Any against? That's carried unanimously with the exception of Councillor Mann, who's stepped out. Well, it's not worth the walk, Councillor Mann. Okay, and that concludes the confidential reports. Councillors, thanks very much. Thank you for the meeting today. Thanks, CEO. Thanks, directors. Declare the meeting closed.